All right, just to confirm for my listeners who I got on the phone here, it is the one and only DJ Prestin. Is it you, sir?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
How you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
All is well. I'm on this side of the dirt, and I can't complain. That's all I'm saying.
That's it.
And you know what? I got to say, spring is almost here. All the birds are out, which is making me happy. I'm sure in a couple more weeks it'll start to annoy me, but for now, it's good.
No, for sure. It's a good change of pace from the miserable cold weather we've been having, for sure.
It was a tough winter, wasn't it? Long
It
one.
was. It couldn't make it felt like it couldn't make up its mind there, right? We get a little bit of good weather, then we get a big blast, and then it would be back and forth constantly, right?
That's it. Mother Nature's bipolar, right?
Exactly.
Well,
especially in Canada.
Especially in Canada, especially where we are. And the one thing I do like about the winter we just had is seeing kids out playing in the snow, seeing them toboggan, seeing them ski. That's what the joy of living in the cold is. In the last few winters, it's just been cold, no snow. So
exactly, it's definitely refreshing. I remember growing up, we used to have some crazy snow, and that's all we used to do. Clear off some ponds, go play some hockey, snowball fights, so the whole nine, right? Spend half the day outside. Didn't matter how cold it was. On the snow days, you were out there playing in it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Snow days. You remember snowball? Maybe your school didn't have this. Our school had a snowball area. So if you were going to have snowballs, you had to go to the specific area. You couldn't just peg innocent kids.
No, I don't think we had that. I think it was just a free-for-all my school grounds, from what I remember.
Well, here's the thing, too, is that nobody actually followed it, really. All you do is drag the kids who didn't want to be in the snowball area into it and then start pounding them with snowballs.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, with that, I want to ask you some fun questions before we get into industry ones, just to get to know you, if that's okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. What was the last song you were listening to before you spoke to me today?
The last song I was listening to, tough one actually. I just actually did a mix that I put out for the Drumless Competition Network actually, so I was listening to that. So
okay,
it would have been one of the tunes on there.
Can we get our hands on this mix if we wanted to hear it, or is it keeping private?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's up on Mixcloud. On my Mixcloud now. You can definitely check it out. It's up there.
Well, when we're done,
DJ Prestin, my Mixcloud. So.
Well, yeah, don't worry about dropping the name. DJ Prestin, I'm sure if you Google, you'll find what you need, but we'll put links below. So if you want to listen to the man, always click below, okay? Second question I've got for you is, do you remember the first album you ever purchased with your own money?
The first album? You know what? I was kind of spoiled in that sense. I got a lot of music from my family, but the first CD, I guess, I ever bought would have been, I think it was Jay-Z, the Black Album. I got a bunch of money on my birthday. And I just went to the mall, and I remember hopping into HMV, and that was one of the ones that stood out to me because it was an all black case. It had no writing on it on the front and the back. It was just black, pitch black. So I grabbed it. It was one of his better albums for sure.
Oh, it's my favorite. Have you ever heard the mix where they took the Metallica Black Album, I believe, with Jay-Z's Black Album and mixed them together?
I have not heard that. I'm definitely gonna check that out though.
It's awesome. It is.
That sounds the beauty of the internet. Hey, honestly, you can find anything nowadays.
This is the truth, and also the horrors of the internet. You can find anything these days.
Yeah. I guess it's a double-edged sword for sure.
Definitely. Do you remember what the first concert you ever attended was?
You know what? It's funny. Yeah, I do because it wasn't really that long ago. I was never really. I've never came from a background where I've had an opportunity to go to a lot of live concerts. I've been to like Wemps and a lot of drum and bass raves and stuff like that. But like the first actual concert that I ever went to was Yellow Wolf at Danforth Music Hall. Well, I think it was last year or the year before when he was down here with his wife, and I can't remember who opened, but that was the first one first and only one actually I've ever been to. So.
No way.
Yeah.
You're an isolated man, a raver, but not much of a concert goer.
No, not much. Like, don't get me wrong, I love all genres I can appreciate all good music, but at the same time, I've never really been into the live music aspect in that sense, right? So I've never really had the opportunity. Then the person I was with at the time wanted to go, so I was like, you know what? I heard some of his stuff, I enjoyed it, and it was actually a really good concert, really good live concert.
That's awesome. And if I can give any advice, I suggest go to more. Honestly, dude, here in Toronto, we are privileged that we have so many. And with the Budweiser stage, the old amphitheater, you have that grass area in the back. So most of these shows for $20, you can at least be a part of it, and it's the atmosphere. Just like going to the rave.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's something I'm on my to-do list. And once the weather gets a little bit nicer, just try to utilize as much outdoor music as I can get.
Well, and I'll tell you one. I guess I'll drop it here. The one that's on Groupon right now, selling hot, is Alice in Chains with Korn in August. Which
that would be good.
$20, man. $20.
Yeah.
And
honestly, at that price point, you can't even go wrong, right?
You know what I mean?
You have a few beers, you lay on the grassy knoll, and you just have a good old time, right?
Exactly, my friend. Okay, let's dive into some industry questions. What was your first rave experience?
Oh man, my first rave experience was Monty Swift and MC Fearless Champion Sound at Diva in Markham, 2006.
Yeah, I remember that. I think Terry threw that party, didn't he?
Future Sound. I think it was Future Sound.
Oh, was it Future Sound? Okay, my bad. Then it's not the same party.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was Future Sound. I had a T-shirt. They used to I don't know if you remember back in the day. They always used to print off the flyers on the T-shirts and then throw them out into the crowd.
I do.
I had it for the longest time, and then I guess in one of the moves I must have lost it. But yeah, it was a Champion Sound, Monty Swift and Fearless. That was my first one. Actually, was supposed to be Ed Rush and Optical Halloween at System Soundbar, but all of my friends ended up not showing up that night, and that I missed out on that party. So ended up being Monty and Fearless, which, hey, I have no complaints about my first one because it was definitely a memorable night.
Well, were you into jungle drum and bass before, or was that your first insight into the music?
That was my first. Like, I was into more hip hop before that, and house and stuff like that. And a buddy of mine introduced me to drum and bass, and used to put it on in the cars and stuff like that. And I was younger, so I was very arrogant. I wasn't paying attention to it. You know what I mean? I would hear it, but I wasn't actually listening to it, right? I just kind of dismissed it as super fast e-music, pretty much at that time, right?
Sure.
But he got me like, no, I heard a few good tunes. Like, there was one tune actually that got me hooked onto it, and once I heard it, I needed to witness it live, and it was Monty Swift, The One. And
wow.
My buddy he put that on a tape, and I heard that in the system, and I was just like, okay. I don't know, just when I heard it, it just did something to me, and I was like, okay, I need to experience this live. And sure enough, Mompy was my first experience live. Coincidentally, his tune was the one that got me into drum and bass as well.
Interesting, and yeah, that's a classic song. As a matter of fact, I got to say, I just listened to an Andy C set where he dropped a bunch of classics. He dropped Champion Sound, Atlantis, Body Rock, all the classics. The one that he didn't drop, and I was thinking of, was The One. And I'm like that, and it's such an MC, as an MC myself. It was such a MC-friendly track. But
for sure, there wasn't much to it either, right? It was a very simplistic.
Just that wow.
Yeah, a very low, heavy low end bass, and it was just, like you said, it did the job. It did the job for the MCs and the ravers, right?
Totally, dude. And as a DJ, I love that you pick that song because, yeah, you always hear these full production type tunes that DJs tend to like, and that's not one of them. It's
no.
Very simple. I'm guessing maybe 15, 16 layers to the track.
Easily, yeah. If that, you know what I mean. It's very, very, very simple. I feel like the drums would be more layers than the actual beat itself, right? The drums would probably take up more than half the layers of the track.
Totally. Okay, what inspired you to want to spin then?
You know what? Funny enough, when I first got into drum and bass, I wanted to be an MC actually, and because I coming from hip hop and rap, I always used to freestyle with my buddies, and I was always big into the lyrics. And when I first got into it, I wanted to be an MC. But when I first went to that first few parties, I don't know, when I saw the way that the DJs can control the room and just by what they're playing, it was inspiring, especially with drum and bass, right? Like the DJs hold the control so well. A good DJ, anyways, can control the room so well with just the tunes that he's playing, right? So it's very. When I saw that, I was like, yeah, this is something. I knew I wanted to be involved in the drum and bass scene, and DJing kind of came a little bit later. DJing came a little bit later into my drum and bass scene, I guess.
No, I get what you're saying, into your repertoire. But
Yeah, exactly.
honestly, listening to you talk is I was thinking the whole way that you remind me a lot of myself, coming from a lyrical background. I'm surprised this guy's a DJ and not an MC. So for you to say what you just said makes me,
Yeah.
I guess, reaffirm what I was thinking.
Yeah, no.
But okay, let me ask you this then: who would you say are your biggest influences on the wheels?
Well, definitely Moppy Swift. He's the double drop champion, right? Like, he was doing that before anybody, right? So Moppy Swift, when I first started DJing, I tried to mimic his style quite a bit. And then I'd say DJ Hazard is also one of my favorites. So versatile. Like, he could go from classics to jump up to smoother stuff to jungle and put it all in one set, and you don't even know what's going on, right? And if I had to pick one more, it'd probably be, oh man, it's a tough one, but I have to say Die, probably DJ Die.
I was just listening to Comanche before.
Personal sound.
Sorry, go ahead.
Pardon it? Yeah, no, I was the original Bristol DJ Die, right? Like Crust and Die, they're like, if I could pair them together, right? Because I always remember them together from back in the days, right? They've kind of branched off and doing their own thing now, but I remember always Crust and Die being a combo, kind of like Ed Rush and Optical, Chasing Status type thing, right?
Weren't they called Comanche when they went together? Wasn't that the name?
I think so. You might be right on that one.
Well, the thing is, I was listening to them, like I say, just before I called you. I had to hit the volume button, and the tune that was playing was a Die and Crust tune. I forget which one it was.
Yeah.
But to be honest, before I get into the next question, I found this thing on the internet that just plays random music for you. But honestly, when I put on drum and bass, it's kind of mundane because it's not mixes. It just plays the track for like 8 minutes and then plays the next track for 8 minutes. But it's okay, I guess, when I'm trying to do work and it's background noise, you know?
Well, and that's a good way to discover new tunes as well, right? That would be a good thing. But like you said, if you're actually sitting there listening to it, it becomes a bit redundant after 4.5 minutes of the same track.
Well,
right?
to be honest, I just need about 30 seconds. You give me 30 seconds to a minute of a song, I can tell you if I want to hear any more of that.
100%.
But all right, let me ask you. Hold on, I gotta get my questions up here. Okay, you kind of talked about it with Mompy Swift and Hazard and why they are influences for you. But I gotta ask you, what do you think makes a good DJ?
A good DJ is, honestly, I'd say 90% track selection. Anybody can go on Beatport or Juno and download the top 10, top 100s, right? But I feel a good DJ, like, he's gonna take you on a journey with his music, right? He's gonna tell a story with the tracks that he picks, and it's a reflection of himself when behind the decks, right? That's something that I try to do when I DJ as well. Try to dig a little deeper every time. I try to play stuff that people don't hear often, but they should. That I think they should hear anyways.
No, that's what makes a DJ perfectly, and I like that you're able to verbalize it because I think it's a tough question. It's one of those things that you just feel. It's hard to quantify, if you will. And
100%.
But I like your answer. I agree with you. Tune selection is key. I think that timing is also. You talked about taking people on a journey, and you've got to have that vibe with the crowd where you're not just shoving shit down their throat, I guess, in a sense.
See, like, at the end of the day, again, it comes down to the time slot when you're playing. Like, it's you gotta play to the crowd and play to the time as well, right? The time that DJ's playing is very important as well, right? You don't want to have somebody going in at 10 o'clock at night, the first set, and they're going in and it's like super high energy, going crazy, right? When there's not that many people there, you want to kind of ease into it and build the vibe throughout the night, right?
Yeah, and that's what I've had that conversation with numerous guys, different opinions on the matter. I like playing devil's advocate. Personally, I think that it's up to a promoter to put a DJ in the place they belong and know who you're booking. And I think, like, for instance, I said this might be a little facetious to throw this lineup out there, but I'm like, imagine you had Pendulum, Hype, Ronnie Size, Andy C. That's your bill. So what do? Mm-hmm. You got Andy playing first, let's say. You tell him, hey, Andy, take it easy. We got Ronnie coming on after you. Right? And it's like, well, no, come on. And I'm like, well, let's, so are we just bargaining with our scene? Is that why we say that an opener should know his role and not try and play a banger? And Go ahead.
I feel in that sense, I feel the scene out there is a little bit different. If you have a headline of if your lineup is those four guys in the UK, chances are you're gonna have a lineup on the street at 9 o'clock to get in. So as soon as the first DJ's on by 10:30, there's already 100, 150 people there. Oh, please believe me, I hope they're playing high energy stuff to get those people moving, right? But unfortunately, Toronto's not that environment anymore, right?
Sure.
So unfortunately, the parties need to be built to get to that high energy state. And I don't get me wrong, I would love to be able to go into a party at 10 o'clock and be able to play high energy stuff because there's 50, 60 people just dying to death. But unfortunately, it's not the reality in Toronto anymore, right?
Well, here's one thing I will say, though, is when we did have those crowds, I remember being at the front of those lineups, and you'd get into the venue, and it would be empty for the first hour, hour and a half, but not because there was nobody coming. It was because security was doing such a stickler job at the door that it would take people so... Nowadays, we don't even constitute that type of security for the most part. So people show up and just go in, you know, like...
Oh, yeah, pretty much. And that's a double-edged sword as well, right? Because it's good and it's bad because, it gets the flow of people moving, but at the same time, obviously they're not doing their job thoroughly if they're just letting people continually roll through the door like that, right?
Yeah, it's totally. Especially with the state we're in today. Thank God we live in Canada. Knock on wood, I shouldn't be jinxing us there. Okay, what changes have you noticed in the scene? It's been, 13 years almost since the day you started to where we are today?
Well, honestly, what noticeable, one thing everybody I'm sure notices the lack of venues, right? We used to have a plethora of places to go to. It didn't matter if it was uptown, downtown, East End, West End. There was always somewhere to go that would host us, right? And now with gentrification and modernization of the city, it's just we're losing venues left, right, and center. And the other thing I noticed too is the amount of music that is coming out is just ridiculous these days. I guess with the digital era, right? Like the amount of music that comes out is just it's overwhelming almost to try to keep up with it all the time, right?
It's trying to saturation will cause it harder to find the good stuff, but I think that there's an abundancy, therefore there's more of it. But yeah, when you're sifting through a bunch of trash, it is harder to find the diamonds in the rough, if you will. But
but it makes it that much more. I feel like it's almost that much more rewarding when you do,
right?
Because there's so much out there. It's when you do find those good musics, it's almost like okay, good, and you have those few gems that they're out there, and people don't know that they're out there just because there's so much going on, right?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And it's also like you say about a digital age. I was talking to somebody earlier about having a Hall of Fame where we could store all of the devices, the Atari systems, if you will, or the Akai, whatever it is, the sampler from, and you could have all the original equipment that the guys that we grew up listening to actually made the music on, so you can appreciate what it took to make these sounds. Nowadays, you've got these sampling programs and everything's all digital and software. You can make a tune from your laptop on the subway, you know.
100%.
So.
And it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the industry, right? Obviously, more music, more artists means more potential for more ravers, more raves, more parties, and everything else, right? But it also comes with, like you said, the oversaturation almost, right? Like almost anybody can do it. Everybody wants to be a DJ. Everybody wants to be a producer, and it makes it that much harder to make that breakthrough to try to stand out from everybody else, right?
Well, how about you yourself? Are you producing at all, or are you just spinning?
Yeah, no, I've been producing. It's just nothing released yet, but I'm working. My goal is to have something released this year. I have some things that are on the go. A couple people that want to work with me.
What are you using to make the music that you're making?
It's called Reaper. The DAW that I use is called Reaper.
Software system?
It's a software, and then I use a bunch of other stuff. I have a little Akai keyboard, a drum pad. Just nothing too fancy, right? Just a little home setup, something that can get my creative juices flowing, right?
Sure, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and let me ask you this: do you think a DJ in today's age needs to produce to be successful?
I personally do, because again, back to what I was saying before, everybody wants to be a DJ. And now with technology, with controllers and record box and Serato and Tractor and all these other technologies, literally anybody could go into the Juno or Beatport and download the top 100 and put together a set, right? So I definitely think producing is what's going to separate you from the bunch of everybody that wants to be a DJ. And I think it shows that you take it a little bit more seriously than just wanting to be a DJ and going out and playing tunes, right?
I get what you're saying. Here's something I've said to people in the past is that I believe it's more important for a producer to spin than I do believe it's for a DJ to be a producer. And people I point to are like Nicky Blackmarket, Kenny Ken, and I say these are guys that didn't necessarily. I'm not saying they never produced. Yeah, I'm sure they co-produced and have been in the studio, sure. But their fame comes more from being with people who produce but don't spin, and they have the only what we used to call white labels or dub plates. Yeah. Really, it's just exclusivity or proprietary ship to that song.
100%.
And I think some DJs, like even with Marcus and Dave the Nemesis, Dave the Nemesis isn't spinning, but his music is hitting the streets via Marcus and other DJs. And if you can align yourself, I think, as a DJ, rather than you saying I have to produce, you can say, you know what, I'm going to network, meet these guys who are making raw beats, be the guy who brings those to the street. Then you will get bookings because you have that catalog that no one else has. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's a big part of DJing comes with the exclusivity of the tunes, right? But again, guys like Nicky Blackmarket, Kenny Ken, guys who don't really produce. Like there's quite a few DJs in the UK, like Rough Stuff, for example. I know he has like a few tunes, but most of them are collab tunes, which I don't think he's too heavy on the production on his own. And like a few of those guys, but they've also been around from the beginning, right? So it's kind of like right place, right time. They had that opportunity to get the exclusivity, and they built it up to be able to only be DJs, right? And
you still have that,
DJs, though. Don't get me wrong, right?
I get. And here's the thing, Prestin, is that you still have that with new producers. If you can, like for instance, Polaris is one who, in my opinion, RMS another. These are guys that are putting out tunes that they could use DJs that have platforms. If you guys aligned yourselves together and said, "Hey, I'll scratch your back, you scratch my," kind of thing, because you're talking about Nicky, who was at the beginning of the UK scene. There's no, other than Marcus and Lush and our grandfathers here, we are the next revolution, if you will. And it is important that we unify. And I think that someone like yourself would definitely benefit, and so would they. It would be a great synergy of a relationship. If I'm not sure if you're familiar with DJ Polaris, but, if you had a couple of his... You know him? You know who I'm talking about, right, Vlad?
Yeah, no, I know Vlad, yeah.
Okay, great guy, man. I'm going to have him on the show in a couple weeks. But,
nice.
I think that there needs to be more of that, I guess, the unification of our producers with our DJs, getting this out onto the platform so that, you have a raw catalog. And I'm not saying that Polaris then gives you and every other DJ that same song. I'm saying that, give me this, give him that, and let's... You know what I mean? Let's let everyone have a little piece.
Spread the sound out evenly, right? That's one thing I always try to do too. Is I always try to have some Canadian content in my sets because Toronto's chock full of them. Between Marcus, NC17, Polaris, Schematic, RMS, like the list, Brockout, like the list just goes on of quality producers in our city, right? And I do try to play a good chunk of their tunes because at the end of the day, if we're not representing our own city and where we're from, then we're not going to have a scene to play to, right? We gotta big ourselves up first before we pick up anywhere else.
Well, I agree with you, and I also want to say that the sound has gotten so much better over the years. It's not like you're just supporting Toronto to do it. You're doing it because it's amazing music as well, right? You're not just saying, "Well, I got to throw a Toronto tune in."
Oh no, 100%. At the end of the day, I play good music. Good music is good music. Doesn't matter where it comes from or who did it. But at the end of the day, I'm proud to showcase that good Canadian music. You know what I mean?
I agree 100%. Okay, I got a couple questions for you here. If you've heard my show in the past, you'll know these ones. So, excuse me. The first one is, if you could create a Mount Rushmore for jungle music, who would your four faces be?
Oh, I have seen you post this one, and I've thought about it before. Okay, so I would have to say Andy C, definitely.
Can I just say I thought Mompy Swift was going to be number one based on our previous...
Well, and you know what? I was going to say Mompy Swift first, but I said Mompy first so many times, but Mompy's definitely on there after Andy.
Of course.
Hazard, okay. And then Groove Rider.
That's a great four.
The Dawn.
That is a great four. Can I tell you, you know what? This episode's probably going to go on in a few weeks from now, but the last person I had on... gentleman, what's his name? I'm sorry. Supa Ape. He's a DJ from the UK.
Okay.
And when he came up with his four names, one of his four was 16 Arm Jack.
Oh, wow. I haven't heard that name in forever.
Dude, and here's the thing, like, for a UK person to name one of our guys as his Mount I was in awe. And big ups to Odie once again, 16 Arm Jack. I know you're still out there. I'll reiterate a funny story is I found him on Facebook, and he didn't know who I was, but I knew who he was. And I started trolling him. And he had posted something. I said something derogatory about it, and he was like, "Hey, what's your problem, man?" So then I posted a picture of Garfield's pet dog thing, like Odie.
Yeah.
And then he DM'd me like, "Who the fuck are you, man?" And I'm like, "Oh, don't worry." It's because, to be honest, I knew that guy from before the jungle scene. Even my ex-girlfriend was friends with him growing up. So, but yeah, big ups to Odie, 16 Arm Jack, very talented man. And those were a great 4. The final question I have for you is the vault question. If you could put 5 items in a vault that would encapsulate our rave culture, what would those 5 items be?
Ooh. Okay, I'd have to put a serious tape. I pick out of the bunch that are out there. It's just all kinds of gold you pick from the lot. I don't know, man.
I want to understand what you just said. A serious tape?
Cyrus.
Oh, Cyrus tape. Any Cyrus tape.
Any Cyrus tape. Yeah, like anyone. Like I said, pick from any one of those legendary parties that came down. Stick one of those bad boys in there. I'd have to say you'd have to put a Solid Apparel shirt in there for sure, because they're like the staple drum and bass clothier. I feel they have been for so long.
Big ups to Tim.
Yeah, always. What else? You'd have to put definitely a rinse-out towel and maybe a pair of UFOs just to throw back for the 90s.
That's awesome. I had a pair of UFOs. Did you have UFOs?
Yeah, I did. Unfortunately, I think everyone owned a pair, right?
Damn right. You got one more item, I believe. One more thing.
And then what else? I don't know. What are you gonna put? We're gonna put the vinyl Syndicate Superman vinyl in there. I played the record for about $80, so you put it in there for the vault. So when they open it up, they have lots of money.
Yeah, by 25,000 years from now, that album will be worth a lot with appreciated value.
Yeah, it's a classic, right? It's like it's Man of Steel, right? It's like that was like the Toronto anthem for so long, right?
Well,
Slip and Slide.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but right next door to Play the Record used to be a place, I don't even know if it's still there, called Remington's Men of Steel.
Okay.
And it was a gay bar.
I think it's shut down. I think it's shut down now, but yeah.
It was a big gay bar.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it was just one of those running jokes, like, the song's called Men of Steel? Like, we didn't know. All we knew was the fucking bar. We're like, man.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely a classic tune. For me, the reason why that song became so classic was the Mach 1 set. Kenny Ken, Stevie Hyper, and because, sadly, of course, what happened to Stevie, I don't know if that's what made the set that much more famous or infamous. Yeah. But that song being the intro to Kenny in that set is really what put it on the map for me.
Yeah, for sure. It always goes over. That's a tune that you could play now and it's still relevant, right? Like actually, I played a T.A.F live stream a few weeks back and someone played it. So still being played, all these years later.
Well, and I'd like to hear. To be honest, I don't know if you know the background around this, but I'd like to talk to Slip or Slide. I've tried to get either of them on the show. Excuse me. The question I have is the history of the song itself, because when I tend to Google it, Aphrodite comes up. And I'm like, why is Aphrodite's name all over this when I know it's Slip and Slide? And I'd like to hear why.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a juicy jungle story behind that one.
Yes, there usually is, and I love them. But anyways,
they're always good.
I'm going to sign off to my listeners, but I want to talk to you, so stay on the phone with me, okay?
100%. All
right, that was him. DJ Prestin3. Like I said, there's going to be links below, so if you want to check this man out, go down below. He's got a Mixcloud. He's got a Facebook page. That's Prestin3 with a number 3, I believe, for an E at the end. Am I right in saying that?
That is correct.
All right, let me ask you, where did that come from? Who designed that logo?
Tim actually designed that logo.
Mr. Solid Apparel.
Mr. Solid Apparel.
All right, well, big ups to him once again. Guys, as always, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, peace out.